On the 6th of March, 4 federal inmates walked out of a medium-security prison in upstate New York through 43 feet of tunnel they had spent 11 months digging with hand tools. On the way out, they left a man behind them in a drainage culvert with a fractured skull, face down in 3 inches of water. He was 51 years old, he was a county plumber, and he had nothing to do with any of it. He lived. That one injury is what turns a prison break into the largest interstate manhunt in a decade. 47 days, 1,000 federal agents, $23 million. 2 of these 4 men will not survive it. A third will die by his own hand. This is the part where all of it comes apart. They walk single file down the storm drain for 18 minutes. When they come out, they are standing in a drainage culvert next to a 2-lane road, and idling in a pull-off 50 yards up that road is a used Nissan sedan with a woman inside it who has never done anything wrong in her life. Sabrina drives. She drives for 6 hours without stopping, straight south on secondary roads. Somewhere outside Scranton, Tommy leans forward between the front seats and asks Doc if they should go back. Not for Delgado's radio, for Anthony Reyes. Because a witness in a hospital bed can talk. Doc says no. Doc says we leave on schedule, and if we go back, we die on schedule. Tommy shuts up. But Tommy is thinking it. And it is the first thing Doc registers that will make him, 72 hours later, cut Tommy loose in an Ohio motel room. At 5 in the morning, in a diner parking lot outside Youngstown, Ohio, they split. Marcus and Levi take a bus north. Doc and Tommy take the Nissan south. Sabrina goes home to Newark, sits in her kitchen, and waits for the phone to ring, because she knows exactly what happens at 6 a.m., and she cannot do anything about it. 6 a.m. head count on Friday, March 7th. Officer Chen walks the second tier of Housing Unit D and finds the first dummy at 6:04. He finds the second at 6:06. By 6:12, he has stopped counting and started running, and by 6:20, the entire prison is on lockdown. At 6:45, the FBI is notified. At 7:15, a helicopter is in the air. At 8:32, a county maintenance foreman opening a drainage grate half a mile from the perimeter fence finds Anthony Reyes lying on his side in cold water, blue-lipped, breathing, alive. By 9 that morning, before the public has heard a single name, the escape has quietly become an escape with an attempted murder charge attached. That charge changes the shape of everything that follows, because a fugitive running from a completed sentence is one problem. A fugitive who has, on the way out, put a civilian in intensive care is a different problem. The reward doubles inside 12 hours. At 9:15, the public alert goes out. 4 names, 4 mugshots, 4 faces on every screen in the country, and a small line under each face reading armed and dangerous. The first tip line call comes at 9:22. The tip line will receive over the next 47 days over 11,000 calls. Almost none of them will be real, but 3 of them will be. 3 will crack the case. The moment your face is on a national alert, you are not running from local police. You are running from ALPR databases at every gas station, biometric software at every bus terminal, 1,000 federal agents pulled off other cases, and a helicopter with a thermal camera that can find a rabbit in a field at 3 in the morning. Roadblocks go up on I-81, I-90, I-87, and the Canadian border crossings within 6 hours. Every rental car within 100 miles of Millwood is checked. A plate reader on I-81 photographs the Nissan at 3:14 in the morning on Friday. But nobody looks at that image until the alert goes out at 9:15. By 10, the plate is on every screen in 3 states. She is stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike at 11 a.m., alone, 6 hours after she dropped the men and turned east. In a bare interview room in Newark that afternoon, an agent named Alvarez lays out for her, in soft, flat language, the exact shape of what happens now. 20 years if the man in the hospital does not wake up. 15 if he does. 0, right this second, if she gives them her brother. Sabrina has been awake for 31 hours. Her firm has already called twice. She looks at Alvarez across the table, and she does not say anything at all. She does not say anything the next day, and she does not say anything the day after. Eventually, they charge her under Title 18, Section 1071. Her paralegal license is gone. Her house is gone. Every single thing she owned is gone. She never says a word. Tommy is the first to make a mistake. 9 days out, at a Greyhound station in Scranton, Pennsylvania, he buys a ticket to Pittsburgh with cash and does not think about the fact that Greyhound stations have cameras. Doc is not with him. Doc has told him to stay in the motel room. Tommy is bored, and Tommy is Tommy. The driver who tears his ticket is 19 years old and just watched the alert on his phone that morning. And he takes one look at Tommy's face and does not say anything. He punches the ticket. He waves Tommy onto the bus. He waits until the bus is a mile down the road, and then he calls the tip line. Tommy is arrested off that bus at a rest stop in Ohio without a shot fired. Then Tommy makes his last decision of the operation, which is to give the FBI a name in exchange for a reduced sentence. He does not give them Doc. He does not know where Doc is. He gives them Officer Ray Delgado. And this is the part they leave out of the press briefings. 6 weeks later, on a routine transport bus between an Ohio federal holding facility and a permanent one in Kentucky, Tommy Serrano is stabbed 9 times in the abdomen with a shank made from a sharpened plastic spoon handle. He dies in the back of the transport bus before it reaches the next exit. The Bureau will not say publicly whether he had been in protective custody, whether he had been recognized, or whether the man with the shank was working for anyone in particular. Federal witness protection is not a program the Bureau confirms operates, and Tommy Serrano was under it for exactly 7 weeks. Long enough to bury Ray Delgado? Not long enough to see anything else. Marcus and Levi have made it to Vermont. They spent day 3 through day 19 in a hunter's cabin, 50 miles south of the border, that Solomon had rented under a dead man's name 8 months earlier. And they lived on canned food, a wood stove, and a radio that told them, every hour, what the search perimeter looked like. On day 21, they pushed north. On day 22, a Homeland Security surveillance drone flying grid patterns over Lake Champlain films 2 figures in a small aluminum rowboat crossing at dawn. They are less than a mile from the Quebec shore when the boat is intercepted by a Vermont State Police patrol vessel. Levi goes into the water. He does not come up where they can see him. The lake is 42 degrees. The State Police diver searches the intercept zone for 6 hours and does not find a body. He does not find a body ever. The FBI will not officially rule Levi dead because there is nothing to rule with. Marcus does not fight. He is 60 years old, exhausted, and the coldest he has ever been in his life. And he sits in the bottom of the boat with his hands on his head and says quietly, "Tell them I want a lawyer." Doc is the last one moving, and Doc is the one they want the most. And what Doc does next is nothing at all. He rents a room in a motel outside Amarillo, Texas, under the third of Solomon's 4 names, and for 19 days, he does not leave it. He watches television. He eats out of a vending machine. He waits for the search grid to move on. When he moves at night, in a Toyota bought from a private seller in a parking lot, and he drives south. On day 38, in the desert outside a border town in Sonora called Naco, 2 Border Patrol agents on ATVs AUGs spot 2 men crossing back into the U.S. side at 4 in the morning. They call it in. Shots are fired. The guide, a Mexican man named Beto that Doc has paid $2,000 in advance to walk him across, runs one way. Doc runs the other. Beto is not hit. Beto keeps running. 4 days later, Beto is found in a scrubland gully 30 kilometers south of the border with 2 bullets in the back of his head and a 9mm shell casing next to him that will not match any American service weapon on record. The cartel does not tolerate people who talk to the border. And Beto had been photographed with 2 agents on a wire the week before. Doc, meanwhile, disappears. A separate report from the same night, 40 miles east, describes a man matching his description crawling into the sleeper cab of an unmarked truck at a fuel depot off Interstate 10 in southern Arizona. That is the last confirmed federal sighting of Wesley Grant on U.S. soil. And on day 51, back in New Jersey, hours after a wire recording of him accepting cash is walked into Internal Affairs, Corrections Officer Ray Delgado moves his 3-year-old daughter's tricycle out of his driveway, sits down in his personal vehicle at 4:12 in the afternoon, and does not get out again. His wife is inside making dinner. She does not hear it, because their older child is watching cartoons at full volume. She finds him 20 minutes later. He leaves a note that says one word: "Sorry." A fishing trawler leaves the port of Veracruz on the 26th of April, 4 days after the Bureau formally scales the search back from a manhunt to an investigation, headed south with a legitimate manifest. It stops in Panama, refuels, changes crew, and is next logged 3 weeks later in Puerto Cabello, Venezuela, a working commercial port on a coastline the United States has no reach into whatsoever. Venezuela has no extradition treaty with the United States and has not honored one since the 90s. What happens to Wesley Grant after he steps off that boat is not officially known. There are photographs, grainy, taken by a Venezuelan freelance journalist in 2022, that appear to show a man matching his description running a small marina in a coastal town. The FBI has been unable to authenticate them. The last officially confirmed U.S. sighting of him is still that fuel depot in southern Arizona. Levi has never surfaced, not once. Not a phone call, not a card transaction, not a photograph, not a body. That is who Levi always was. Sabrina Grant serves 4.5 years. She is released on a Wednesday afternoon in 2023. To a life that no longer exists. Marcus Boyd is doing his original 12, consecutive to a new 18-month sentence for the escape, plus 15 years for the attempted murder of Anthony Reyes. He will die in a federal cell. Tommy Serrano is buried in a plot the government paid for. Ray Delgado is buried 3 states away in a plot his union covered. Anthony Reyes learned to walk again with a cane at 53, and gives an interview once, and never gives another. 10 people robbed that vault and walked away with $18 million. 8 of them went to prison. The Bureau of Prisons, following its own rules about bed space and classification, put 4 of them in the same building. Those 4 left Millwood with nothing but a hole in the ground. 2 of them are dead. 1 of them is in prison for the rest of his life. 1 of them is on a coastline the American government cannot reach. And that $4.5 million in cash from the original job, the money that started all of it, is still, right now, sitting somewhere, waiting to be cleaned. Video 4 is the laundering. This time, they know it is coming.